When we think of the end of World War II, we usually imagine celebrations, victory, liberation, and peace. But for millions of ethnic Germans living across Eastern Europe, the end of the war marked the beginning of an entirely different tragedy. Families who had lived in these regions for generations suddenly became enemies, not because of what they had done individually, but because of who they were. Entire villages disappeared. Homes were seized, people vanished into camps, many never returned. Today we're exploring one of the least discussed humanitarian catastrophes of post-war Europe, the expulsion of the Danube Swabians. By 1944, millions of ethnic Germans lived outside Germany. Most were descendants of settlers invited centuries earlier by the Habsburg Empire. Many spoke German. Many identified as loyal citizens of the countries where they lived. Some had family members serving Germany. Many did not. Some opposed Nazi rule, others supported it. But after the war, these distinctions often disappeared. Entire ethnic communities were treated as collectively guilty. As Soviet forces advanced westward and new communist governments took power, ethnic Germans were frequently labeled collaborators. In countries such as Yugoslavia, many lost nearly every legal protection. Their citizenship was revoked, their farms, homes, livestock, and businesses were confiscated. Many were forbidden to work, travel, or own property. Without individual trials, entire communities were punished based on ethnicity rather than personal actions. This was collective punishment on a massive scale. Thousands of Danube Swabians were sent to internment camps. These camps were not extermination camps like those operated by Nazi Germany. But conditions were often catastrophic. Food was scarce, medical care was nearly non-existent, disease spread rapidly. Children and the elderly were especially vulnerable. Many historians estimate that tens of thousands died from starvation, disease, exposure, or neglect in these camps. The suffering was immense, even though the camps served a different purpose from the industrialized murder carried out during the Holocaust. Some civilians were executed without formal trials, especially during the chaotic final months of the war and its immediate aftermath. Others were deported to perform forced labor, particularly into the Soviet Union, where many spent years rebuilding infrastructure and industry under harsh conditions. Families were separated. Children lost parents. Parents lost children. Even those who survived often carried physical and emotional scars for the rest of their lives. The experiences varied from country to country, but fear and uncertainty became a shared reality. By the late 1940s, the German presence across much of Eastern Europe had largely vanished. Across Europe, an estimated 12 to 14 million ethnic Germans were expelled or fled their homes in the broader post-war population transfers. The Danube Swabians were one part of this enormous movement. Entire villages that had existed for 2 centuries became empty almost overnight. Churches changed congregations. Homes received new occupants. Family cemeteries remained behind. For many survivors, there would never be a return. The suffering of the Danube Swabians should never be viewed as competing with the suffering caused by Nazi Germany. History isn't a contest of victims. Millions suffered under the Holocaust. Millions suffered under Soviet occupation. Millions suffered through forced migrations. Many innocent civilians became victims simply because they belonged to the wrong ethnic group at the wrong moment in history. Understanding these events doesn't excuse war crimes. It helps us understand how cycles of hatred and revenge continue long after wars officially end. Today, descendants of the Danube Swabians have made new homes around the world. Many are preserving family photographs, letters, recipes, dialects, and traditions that nearly disappeared. Some have returned to visit the villages their grandparents were forced to leave. Others continue researching lost family histories. Their story reminds us that history is rarely simple. Communities can flourish for centuries and disappear in only a few years. If we fail to remember these stories, we lose part of the human experience itself. The Danube Swabians helped shape Central Europe for generations. Their legacy deserves to be remembered.